Hello everybody and welcome to the British Pint. My name is Christoph and we are tasting two really special beers today that I need to tell you a bit about because I did brew them over a year ago and you can find the brew day on my channel. But there was something I wanted to do in the meantime, not just wait for 1 year, and I lost that video because I was stupid and deleted it. So I have here the Barclay Perkins Hogshead Porter and the Whitbread KK. 1886 and 1901 I think are the dates of the recipes, and this one is the only survivor that was not bretted. So what I did in the beginning was I put them in my 5-liter mini kegs for half a year with dry hop, so that I had a lot of hop creep. I got that flavor that you get when you let dry hop sit there for a very long time, which was much better than I expected. Because what I actually got from the East Kent Golding dry hop was an aroma of tropical fruits that was more intense than anything I'd ever had before when dry hopping during fermentation. So that was very interesting, and as I said, the KK was drunk within weeks. So this is just luck that I realized when the video was gone that I had one bottle left of the Hogshead Porter. I'm going to try this one first, so that's just after long dry hopping. Now, of course, when I bottled it after 6 months, and now it has been standing for 6 more months, or even 8 or something, the flavor is pretty much gone off that dry hopping, right? It's this natural aging process there, you lose a lot of hop aromas. But when it came out of the keg, it was really intense still. So this dry hopping in the keg, that seems to be a really interesting thing. The problem is, of course, you need to get the beer out without having all the small hop particles clog all your vents. And now these two were bottled, and then there was some Brettanomyces clausensi added, which is supposed to be the British strain of Brettanomyces that was traditionally in the casks. Yeah, so the porter again here, this is the KK. I'm really interested in how these are going to taste as a bretted version now, probably also with muted dry hop aroma. I can only recommend you to drink this after fresh out of the cask. That was so amazing, really nice. This one, when it was fresh and without Brettanomyces, but after the dry hopping 6 months, was really wine-like, very fruity, lots of inward sugar in this one, really nice, interesting character. Both of these are quite strong, so this KK is double strength, so 7% I think. You will have all the data here on the side. I can barely remember now, but I have it all written down. And the hop creep was so strong that this one already had negative degree Plato apparent final gravity. So that was below 1000 in specific gravity. And this one attenuated much less, so hop creep is less effective with lots of roasted malt. And both of them did not develop any kind of carbonation that I can really notice, so I just opened them slightly a minute ago to see if there was a loud pop and everything was foaming, but it's just very tiny contribution of Brettanomyces that I'm expecting here because the hop creep has such a high contribution. So let's try the Hogshead Porter first, and that is the one without Brettanomyces. Now, it was really acrid and astringent because it contains a ton of roast malt and especially black malt. It still tastes very fruity in not just the dark fruit aromas, but slightly East Kent Golding tropical maybe. So that's very interesting. Carbonation seems to be quite low. That's interesting. So I had a decent carbonation in the cask. Not sure whether this one was just lower carbonated than I think I remember now, or something like that. Yeah, Vinous Old Ale quality, but there is some proper fruit aromas from hopping in there as well. They are very faint though, if you smell it from the glass. It's always easier if you just take the very volatile components that come out of the bottle. This here now is a bit more or less you're used to, closer to what it will taste like. So let's see, I tasted the Price Old Ale recently and that was very complex. I'm going to be interested to see how this one and then the others compare to that. Yeah, intense malt bitterness, which is a bit of pity. Not something that I like because of that. Really instantly lying on the tongue in a like in texture. That's not very nice. Really astringent. But the flavor is really nice. It is slightly sour on the tongue because of the high content of roasted malts. I also adjusted the water quite heavily, so there's no hydrogen carbonate in there to buffer the acidity you get from roasted malts. I remember that the malt bill was very complex. Again, I want to put this all up here on the side because I just can't remember, but I think it was a brown malt and all this stuff in there, obviously, because it's a London porter. Yeah, smell is really, what is it? Dried fruits, similar to the Jacobite ale that I tasted recently. It's really a bit sharp because the alcohol content is there. Lots of sherry, really, but yeah, thin, sharp sherry, the dry one, I would say. That's what it smells like. You don't really smell any of the malts. Maybe a very faint biscuity note. Texture is great. Laciness is great. This is really lacing a lot. I used the historic Chevalier malt, the one that's grown in Germany and was very badly modified when they just test malted it. So the body really helps. It's actually, if you take a big sip like I just did, quite silky on the tongue. Counters the acridity quite a lot if you take a big enough sip, just because the protein content of that malt is really high. The beer is also, I think, clear. So if I just look diagonally, so that I have very small amount of this really dark beer in here. By the way, the color value that Ron Patterson gives is calculated with the Beersmith app, I think, and they use that old 90s formula. I put a link down in the description below on what different formulas there are for color correction and why it's so important that you have the modern ones. In Germany, the website maischemalzundmeer.de, they have the modern one, and I think nobody else. So the darker the beer gets, the worse the calculator seems to get this. So I think the calculator thought this would be around 80-90 EBC, and the modern calculators say like 180 or maybe more. I didn't type in the invert sugar. So yeah, number 3 invert sugar. Not sure if I taste that. It's actually just hidden below all the other stuff, but I remember it's in there. One of the few things I remember. So yeah, it's quite okay. It's not something I really would like because of that intense bitterness, and that's also because I use proper black malt, and back in the day the black malt they used back then would be more like 1000 EBC, so like modern chocolate malt. So maybe if you did that it would be a bit better. But I only learned that afterwards. So let's see what this is like. Also, I can't see through this one, but I can see through the KK, and that one has a very strong sediment, so the Brettanomyces has grown in there, and it's really floating, so I might get lots of yeast in my beer, which won't be nice. I hope I can manage. So let's start with the Brettanomyces porter. Give it a good chance to foam. Very nice. Try to tilt this very gently. I hope I'm not making too much noise with the glasses. And then the KK, here at least I can see if I do any mishaps. This one might actually have gained some carbonation. There's a bit of foam that has been created by the quick opening that I did earlier. Bit of foam, please. Yes, very nice. Okay, and then gently, ever so gently. Oh god, very turbid. Okay, so first I would really like to check whether this one is actually completely clear, because this combination of invert sugar and very badly modified malt is something that would be historically accurate. There's actually pieces of a pellicle swimming in there, like a calm skin, calm yeast. No longer there. So that's the problem with Brettanomyces. You introduce something that can grow under any circumstances. We'll see what this tastes like, but yeah, the yeast is not, the beer is not completely clear, slightly chill hazy, but much clearer than all the beers I did from 100% of that historic Chevalier malt. Very faint smell. Unfortunately, that whole Golding's character from the long dry was completely gone. I think I smell a very slight Brettanomyces contribution. Let's see. Oh yeah, it has that vinous quality. It is very malt forward. I think it's also because invert sugar number 2 might be in there, which also is similar to malt flavor, or gives at least some biscuity components, not just fruit. There's a bit of pineapple going on in there, which is what Brettanomyces clauseni is usually described as. And it's also a bit sharp, a bit more aggressive. So I can imagine that there is a bit of contribution from Brettanomyces clauseni, though it isn't very large, as I said, because it didn't have much to eat. Yeah, let's try it. Last sip. Very nice, refreshing, but a bit sharp. It might be just alcohol that is a bit sharp there. So all the flavors are less strong than the impression of alcohol that you get, because it is a very strong one. I think that's the biggest flaw in there. I don't think it was like that in the beginning. So I guess because of the age, a lot of the flavors are muted, and that's why the alcohol comes forward so clearly. So let's see what we smell in this one here. I can't see if any cloudiness is in there, but the bottom looks a bit clearish. Nice red reflexes and everything, just like the unaged one. It smells really like the other one, and I don't smell any pineapple in there. I think it's very similar. Yeah. This one, probably I should have given the Brettanomyces a bit more chance to eat at something, eat away at sugar. That would have been better. So historically, what you would have had, at least in the India stuff, India Pale Ale and all these things, everything that was transported to India would have dry hop and Brettanomyces at the same time. And so there it would be a combination of both effects. And for me it wasn't clear whether dry hop would create that much hop creep, because it depends on the hop variety, and with East Kent Golding I just wasn't sure. So just doing East Kent Golding and afterwards the Brettanomyces reduces Brettanomyces a lot, and maybe a bit too much. If I wanted to redo that and do some historic recipes, I would probably do both. So I have a keg where I put in the hops, maybe in one of these little bags that makes sure that the particles don't fly around, but they have lots of time to give off their nice flavors. And then Brettanomyces at the same time, and see where this ends up. And now of course in the India Pale Ale, where you would have the temperature changes because it was going through the equator and everything was really hot, and the motion of the ships and everything, one of the two processes might be accelerated more than the other, and so that might also cause a mellowing of flavor. Because one of the very few descriptions you have from East India Pale Ale, that is about the mellow flavor. And I don't think it was just because aging happened quicker, which is one of the suspicions. It was probably also because Brettanomyces might have been less active. That's just my assumptions. Yeah, but this is really nice tasting, very interesting. Now, over a year later, I think these are a bit too old for modern flavors. I have no idea how it was back then. I know that the old ale stuff and the vatted porters, they would have sometimes been vatted for 6 years, but that would have been too much for me, I think. And maybe also things had changed by 1886 and 1900, which is when these beers were made. Maybe it was just 1 year that they were vatted, and then with the dry hops until the very end, which might have provided more aroma than I had here. Yeah, so do try both of these things at home. The dry hopping in the keg seems to be really good with East Kent Golding. No idea about all the other varieties, but do try it with that one. And then why not a bit of Brettanomyces clauseni, much milder than the, what was it, Suburban Bread by Imperial Yeast is a proprietary mix of Brettanomyces. That one was intensely cherry, but also horse blanket. I do not notice any horse blanket or even leather in these two, very mild. But then again, that's also because Brettanomyces didn't go to its full power. Yeah, so let's close the video here, and I see you next time. Bye bye.